episode of Inspiration Talks. I'm very excited about today's episode. I have a very special guest all the way from Los Angeles. Pamela Topjian is with us. Hi, Pamela. How are you doing?
Hi, I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I am really honored to be on your podcast. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Pamela. So, Pamela, I would like to start our today's conversation with can you tell us a little about yourself? What do you do? How
Yeah.
was your life?
So I'm in the US, obviously, and I am a former nurse. And in 2020, during the pandemic, I changed careers to hypnotherapy. And I had lived through some childhood trauma, had a major breakdown in my 50s, and wrote my memoir. And then after that, I wrote another book. And I also do pet sitting on the side. And writing out my memoirs have helped me to go through my healing after that major breakdown.
So why did you decide to write your memoir?
Yeah, so the first one was really a full memoir, my whole life story. And I started writing it to kind of gain clarity on my life and how I got to that point of breaking down, because I didn't really understand how I got to that point and why I was, when I had a major mental breakdown after my second divorce, after two toxic marriages and some childhood trauma, and that I didn't understand how I got to that point in my life. So I started writing it down more as therapy for myself. And then after reading some other memoirs and realizing that I didn't feel so alone. And I felt like other people were able to go on and live productive lives and go on and get past that point of, breakdown and past that point of being anxious and depressed and all of that, that they could come out of that and, love their life and that. And so I knew that there was hope for me. And so from reading other people's memoirs, then it helped me to realize that maybe I should publish mine as well. So that's what made me decide to publish mine. And writing mine started out as more of my own healing journey of just journaling for myself. And then it became something that I wanted to do to hopefully help others to inspire others to hold on to hope as well.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Writing actually is a very good therapy, like how painting is good therapy. So, as you mentioned, you wrote your own memoir. So, how was the process of writing out your life story?
Yeah. So it was difficult, and it actually took 5 years to write it. So
Okay.
sometimes I had to just put it down and take time off from writing. And a lot of people have told me that I couldn't remember everything if I tried to write it. And I'm not writing every single thing that happened in my whole life. There's no way you
Exactly.
could do that. But, just the major points that really had an impact on my life. And if I didn't remember something, I would talk to people or I would look at pictures. Or when you write out one major thing that happened in your life, that would start to help you to remember what was going on. And it would help to bring on what was going on next. What happened next in your life. And you could even say things like, and from that point on, nothing major happened until this event. You can even say things like that in the memoir. You don't have to write every single year in that. But I did kind of I started from the beginning, from like the first memories and like the stories that my parents told from when they got together and things like that. That's where I started, and it kind of helped me to write it out that way from childhood and then like each year going through and major events, different, like I said, childhood traumas in my life, losing a sister in my teens and I was a teen mother and my parents divorcing and we moved around a lot and stuff like that. And so writing those big events out in my life, um, just and how I felt during the time I remembered. So, just I just wrote it all out as if how I remembered it, just as if I was talking to a friend, just my perspective from how I felt at the time. And as I said, it was difficult at times, and it is a hard read sometimes for people, but just know, obviously, it gets better. There is sensitivity warnings and trigger warnings that need to be in place if you have issues that are hard to read, then it might not be the book for you. But it does get better, obviously. That's the whole point of it, to know that it can get better, and it does get better. I'm living proof, and that's the whole point of it, that a lot of what I went through, so many other women have been through, and it can get better. It's possible, and people need to know that it's possible to get better.
Exactly. As it said, nothing is impossible because the
Yeah.
word impossible itself says,
Right.
I am possible. So, yeah, every phase of life
Yes,
passes.
yes.
Just you have to smile and go through the anxiety or whatever difficult situation you are going through. So, Pamela, as you mentioned about big events, so usually when you write about big events, like very emotional.
Okay, so Pamela, as you mentioned about big events, so while writing about big events, usually people get emotional. So how did you tackle those emotions while writing all about that?
Because
Well,
to write, as like when people read, they get through the emotions. So when you were writing, how did you get through all those emotions?
Well, as I said, I did put it down sometimes. I had to just write something out, and then I would put it down, and not come back to it for a while. But I actually have some trouble with emotions, and that's part of why I was in therapy. When my sister was killed in a car accident, my mother's friend told me, and I was just before I was 14, so I was a young teen. My mother's friend told me not to cry. She said, "Don't you cry. You have to be strong for your mother." And that had a big effect on me. And still to this day, I have trouble showing those emotions. So when I was writing things out, I would have nightmares sometimes, and it came out in other ways. So writing it out really was a release for me, and it almost helped me to get those emotions out without that crying, without the physical emotion. So actually writing it was the release for me.
Okay, that's
So that
nice
helped.
to know that writing helped you a lot to come out from the
Yeah.
anxiety. So, as you mentioned, you have
Yeah.
also written another book. So, what is it about? What
Yeah.
made you decide to write the second book?
Yeah. So I changed the careers, as I mentioned. So the second book is about my nursing career, and it's a little bit of a lighter book. There's not really trigger warnings needed as much. I mean, there is some talk of, recovery, people with, addiction and stuff like that. And there is some talk of, very sick people in that. But it's my nursing career from my perspective, and unethical things that went on in my nursing career, just a behind the scenes look of what went on in the hospitals, in home health, and just what I went through in my nursing career, and then why I quit. And that's called Behind the Gloves, Scrubs, and Behind the Mask, Gloves, and Scrubs, One Nurse's Journey.
So what made you write your second book? Like when did you decide that it's time to write your second book? Can you tell a little about that book?
So when I wrote the other book, there is of course a part in there about my nursing career and about why I quit and when I quit that. And other people then had asked me, about more about that. And then I thought, well, that would make a good book on its own. It could delve deeper into that aspect of it. So I started writing that to see if I could get enough out of that whole story in itself. I was 14 years as a nurse, and it's a little bit of a shorter book, but it's just full of stories from my nursing career. And it's just kind of interesting, and it just really shows. As I was writing it, I was thinking, why didn't I leave sooner? Because it's kind of crazy, some of the stuff that I went through in there. But yeah, so I made a whole nother book out of that whole time in my life.
Okay. So what's the most memorable memory from your nursing career?
Oh my goodness. The most memorable memory from my nursing career, I think, is probably when I was working with any of the times that I was working with babies, because it just really had the most impact on me. I felt like it would be, even though the babies were really sick, people would say to me when I first started working with babies, how could you do that? It would really be hard to work with babies. But I thought that, just making their last days or helping these babies to feel better would be easier. But it was actually really, really difficult. It really hurt my heart more so than, working with like elderly people with Alzheimer's and that. Working with the babies, they just stick with you. I just will never forget those babies, ones with all kinds of issues going on, with a tracheostomy or with, feeding tubes and, just all kinds of health issues going on. They just, or, you're in home health, you're with a baby and, the family is coming down the stairs, as you start your shift and the baby's dying, and the ambulance is coming. I'll never forget that. You dream about that, you have those nightmares remembering that. So, it's just, it just sticks with you. It just stays with you.
I can understand such
Yeah.
memories do stays with everyone, like whoever faces these things. So, Pamela, what do you want the readers to take away or learn from your books?
That you can make, if you're not happy where you are or not happy where you are in your life, your career, your marriages, whatever's going on in your life, that there are options, that you can make changes, that there is hope for you. You don't have to stay stuck wherever you are. It can get better. It does get better, to not lose hope. So that's what I want people to take away.
What advice would you like to give to the people who are watching you right now?
I want people to know not to stay stuck where they are if they're not happy in their life, to know that it can and it often does get better, that I am living proof, to not give up on hope, that it can get better and it often does get better.
Okay. One more last question. Who inspires you in life?
Oh my goodness. I would say that my mother inspires me in my life because she never gave up on hope, and she has been through a whole heck of a lot in her life and she never gave up. And that's what I want people to ultimately do, is not give up, keep going.
Okay, so how to get motivated to never give up hope? Like
What's
sometimes
that?
no, my question is sometimes, you are in such phase, you get through difficulties that you feel like giving up. So how not to give up? Like what advice would you like to give to motivate yourself to not lose hope?
Just, look at other people that you know of that have been through things that, like I said, I was reading other people's memoirs that helped me to know that it's possible. Also, you can look back at your own achievements or times that you have been through things and know that you can do hard things. You have been through other things in your life, most likely, and you've come out of them. Every time that you go through any kind of challenge, know that you have come out of that. And every time you do that, it shows yourself that you can do it.
Exactly, you are right. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much for being part of Inspiration Talks.
Yes, you too.